process of normalization of China-US relationship, Pakistan played a very important bridging role. Today, we are honored to have with us Mr. Mushahid Hussain, Chairman of Senate Foreign Affairs Committee of the Parliament of Pakistan.
Good evening to friends.
Now, Mr. Hussain will recall the normalization of China-US relationship with the assistance of Pakistan.
Thank you. Good evening to friends in the United States, and ni hao to friends in China. And a very good morning from Islamabad, Pakistan, the place from where Dr. Kissinger made his historic journey to China 50 years ago. As a student of China and as also a student in the US, Pakistan, I can tell you, played a very important role as a bridge. I first visited China in 1970. And since then, I have made over 100 visits to China. And then I studied in Washington, D.C., in Georgetown University School of Foreign Service. So Pakistan's role as a bridge is also personified in my own personal relationships. The important thing was that President Nixon had a lot of affection and fondness for Pakistan. And the choice of two critical choices that he exercised. One, reposing trust and confidence in President Yahya Khan of Pakistan, and also choosing Dr. Kissinger as his emissary. Because Pakistan had a very close relationship with the United States, and Pakistan also has been a very close ally and friend of China, our great northern neighbor. And when this task was assigned to General Yahya Khan, the military ruler of Pakistan at that time, he pursued this with almost military precision, planning, secrecy, deception. And the way it was done was that it was just the Pakistan president and two of his important civilian aides, one the Foreign Secretary Sultan Khan, and the other one was Pakistan's ambassador to the United States, Agha Hilali. The first discussion, serious discussion on this took place on 25th of October at the White House between President Yahya and President Nixon in a one-on-one meeting where President Nixon formally requested the Pakistan president to play his role. And then 17 days later, President Yahya went to Beijing and he had another one-on-one meeting with Premier Zhou Enlai on 12th of November, and where he conveyed this message. And later on, Premier Zhou Enlai recalled that the reason he took this message seriously was that this was the first time a message came from a head of state to a head of government through a head of state. So from a head, through a head, to a head. And initially, General Yahya Khan was skeptical. He said to Nixon on 25th of October that it perhaps is going to be slow, there will be setbacks, because old enemies do not become friends overnight. But the process came on the fast track because the first message, which was from China via Pakistan, was delivered by the Pakistan ambassador to Dr. Kissinger on December 9th, soon after General Yahya Khan's meeting with Zhou Enlai in Beijing. And that message was verbal. It was dictated to Dr. Kissinger, because it was handwritten, as Dr. Kissinger rightly pointed out in his speech, given the secrecy. And then the process started, and messages were continued to be exchanged. The most decisive message came on 31st of May from China, confirming that they would warmly welcome Dr. Kissinger as emissary of the United States of America to Beijing. And this message was a two-pager, which was hand-carried by a special Pakistan emissary. And this was conveyed to Dr. Kissinger personally by our ambassador on the evening of 2nd of June, 1971. And Dr. Kissinger writes in his book, The White House Your Ears, that the Pakistan ambassador's hands were shaking when he conveyed this message. And Dr. Kissinger immediately rushed to inform President Nixon, who was hosting the president of Nicaragua at a White House banquet. He was asked to come. And when Nixon saw that message, he said, "This is the most important communication that an American president has received since the end of the Second World War." And on 9th of July, President Nixon sent his emissary to Pakistan, Dr. Kissinger. He flew in a PIA plane, Pakistan International Airlines, enshrouded in secrecy. There was complete deception plan was made. They said that Dr. Kissinger had arrived from Delhi. He had a stomach upset, what they call it Delhi belly, and that he had to go to a hill station 2 hours away from Islamabad for rest. And Kissinger had already prepared his double and Winston Lord's double also. They went in a caravan with Ambassador Mr. Farland and a Pakistani. And in the early morning of 9th at 4:30, he flew from Pakistan to Beijing on the historic trip, which led to the week that shook the world, as President Nixon put it, which would not have been possible but for Pakistan's role and Pakistan's relationship and the trust that we enjoyed both between Beijing and Washington. So this is how the whole initiative was taken, and we feel that this relationship has been very good for the world at large. It contributed to peace, security, and stability. It helped China. It helped the United States. China helped the U.S. win the Cold War. China and U.S. helped China in opening up and ending its isolation. And I think the one takeaway from that historic visit 50 years ago, which led to the normalization of relations between China and the U.S., is that this is an indispensable relationship which is needed for harmony, for cooperation. And in this era today, in 2021, 50 years later, we feel that this relationship is a plus for both US and China, and there is no room for any talk of either containment or a Cold War, because this relationship is vital to strengthen